Okay, so I'm going to work on my clay house decoration, so as if I was going to apply underglazes to it. So I've got out my supplies. So when we were at school, if you were at school with me, if you were hybrid, I gave you guys watercolor paper, and it's thicker paper like this, and I gave a couple sheets to most of you. If you didn't get it, or you weren't at school, you weren't hybrid, you've been remote the whole time, then you don't have to use this watercolor paper. You guys can take your sketchbook that I gave you, and you can rip out a piece of that paper, or maybe you guys have some thicker paper at your house. So if you don't have the watercolor paper, it's not the best, but you could rip that out. You might want to put down some paper or a paper towel underneath, because that thin sketchbook paper isn't the best, okay? If you absolutely cannot use watercolor, then you can use your colored pencils, okay? All right, so I'm going to start with a pencil. So we are drawing our house that we made out of clay. So I'm doing mine from memory because I left my house at school. And you should try to fill up the whole page. You can do it vertically or landscape, whichever is easier for you or whichever you prefer. And I'm not worried about your drawing ability. Just do the best you can. You don't even have to make it 3D. I'll show you a really simple way to make a 3D house. So my house was really, really basic when I was making it. And so I basically had kind of a roof that went like this, downward, and I'm doing it sideways so I have room to draw it 3D. Okay, so I had basically like a overhanging roof, and then to make it 3D, I just kind of add that triangle there. And then the roof overhung, so then I would draw my vertical up and down lines here. And then I would draw another line going this way. So if I was doing this in a drawing class, I would use perspective and horizon line, things like that. But I'm not too worried about that now. And again, this is not a drawing class. I'm not worried about your drawing ability. Okay, and then I would repeat this vertical line back here, just a little shorter. And then I would repeat this line that's going back to what we call the vanishing point. Okay, and then this one would go up to that. And then you usually have a little bit that you need to erase. So my house was super basic, like this. Yours might look different. And then I had a door and windows. So again, I'm following those same lines, and that's how you do it 3D. If you can't draw 3D, that's okay too. But you'll just basically get the start of that. Then you're going to decide how you want to decorate it. So you could do it like David Stabley did and get really creative. So you could draw things in it, or you could just paint it. And the reason we're doing this in our watercolors is because they're lighter than underglazes, but they stay true to color like underglaze. Now, when you get your watercolors, you guys have fresh trays. But the best thing to do, let me get my bigger brush. I have two brushes. The best thing to do is just to saturate the color first. I also have a paper towel here. That way they have a chance for the paint to kind of get moist again. And I just put a little bit of water in between. The really important thing is you clean your brush in between color. A lot of time painters will go from light to dark too. So I have a smaller brush. If you have one, you can use that. You should have one. You should have a tiny brush that came with your kit. It's yellow. And then you should have another brush with a brown handle, okay? So now if I wanted to start painting, I would usually go light to dark because it's a lot easier to darken something than to lighten it. And then I can decide. It can be really fun and colorful, but since we're not at school right now to be using underglazes, I think it would be, this is a good way that we can practice using color as if we were going to paint it on our pieces. And then if you want to go to the glaze form, you can go to the glaze form online, and you can use that glaze form, and you can figure out if you want to use underglazes, and then you would pick them up at school. And remember from our lesson that underglazes can be used on leather hard clay, wet clay, or on Bisqueware, fired clay. Okay, so then you would just continue to paint in your piece. You can get as creative as you want. And then remember that you are either going to turn your video on in class, or you are going to email me a picture, and then I'll share it with the class on Thursday. And don't worry about your painting or drawing ability. So that's the basic thing that we're doing for our underglaze lesson today.